This is the Transforming Anxiety podcast with Kelly Hanlon McCormick, and today is episode number 224, Your Charging Station. Welcome to Transforming Anxiety. I'm your host, Kelly McCormick. I'm a mom to 2 boys, a wife, friend, daughter, and sister, and I'm a certified life coach, yoga teacher, and soon-to-be mindfulness meditation teacher. I'm no stranger to anxiety, and I'm here to teach you how to manage your mind and your emotions so that you too can transform anxiety into calm, peace, and whatever you want for your life. I'm so glad you're here. Hey there. Welcome in today. I hope you're doing well. Over here, we are in recovery mode. My oldest son had his wisdom teeth out. And for those of you with teenagers, you know how this goes. It's like a part-time job. It's kind of funny with the ice and the ibuprofen. But anyway, he's recovering. We're hanging out. He's watching movies. I'm working. He's icing and resting and icing and resting. And we're just getting things done. I hope your week is going well. Your month is going well. Or to the end of June, looking at July. It's all happening. So, okay, let me give you a little backstory to just set up what we're going to talk about today. This is a cute and kind of funny story. So, my brother was helping his wife's 95-year-old, I think she's 95-year-old grandmother get moved into a new place. And they really stressed the importance of her chair to her. Like she has one of those chairs that leans forward. It assists you to get out of it, you know? My brother said it launched her out because he's a funny guy. But you know what I mean, right? So they're getting her moved. They're prioritizing stuff to get settled first. And my brother made the casual comment that her chair, he said it was like Granny's charging station, which of course is hilarious. But actually, I got to thinking about it a little more. And I don't know, I'm making meaning where there probably isn't any, but I found something deeper behind this. And that is what I want to talk about with you today in this episode. So we're going to be talking about your charging station. So, okay, to continue with the backstory, I got to thinking about Granny. This is my sis-in-law's maternal grandmother. She's in her 90s, right? She's recently had to move to a different state. She's had to move away from everyone she's known and where she's lived for decades, all on her own. She's had a lot of change in her life here recently. And, of course, as what happens when you're in your 90s, she's had some health issues come up. So there's a lot going on for her. And I know this isn't unusual. This isn't unique. I get it. But it's true, right? We gloss over this stuff like, yep, that's how that goes, right? Grandmas, what can you do? But it's real, and it can be a lot, right? Change, health concerns, moving, giving up places, giving up people and things, her beloved dog, who she can't have with her in this new place, all of it. It's all changing. It's so much change. But this chair has been a constant for her these past few years. Quite a few years at this point. So it's actually become more than a chair, right? It's more than a place to just sit or a piece of furniture in her apartment. It's a constant at this point. It's a comfort. It's something that's reliable. It's something that's consistent. It's something that represents stability. And it's helpful to her, right? It's a place where she can watch TV and she can read, she can relax, she can nap there. Sometimes she sleeps there. Actually, it's comfortable to her. It's home. And listen, I know my brother, he's a funny dude. He was saying it in a funny way, right? That chair is her charging station. He was saying it like, we can't let Granny's batteries run low. We got to get her in her chair. We have to prioritize the chair and the move. And yes, totally clever, totally funny. My brother almost always is. And it's also wise. Right? That chair is Granny's charging station. That's her home base. It's kind of like her whoopee, right? Her safe zone. She loves that chair. And it got me thinking about all of us and our charging stations, about intentionally having and creating and utilizing charging stations, what that could look like for us, for all of us, Granny included, of course. Now, we need to get creative here. Charging stations don't have to be sedentary or even about relaxing or chilling out. They can be, and we need those. For some people, it may be as simple as their bed, their couch, like a favorite outdoor chair or hammock, or even the earth, right? Like getting your toes in the dirt, sitting down on the ground. That all makes sense. Those are great charging stations. You get to rest your body. Maybe you recover from activity or lots of decision making or doing, going, right? You get to relax. Maybe you enjoy a book or a movie. Maybe you sleep. This is wonderful. Yes, solid charging stations. Look for those. Have something like that in your repertoire, undoubtedly. And I invite you to think of it as a charging station. You with me? Reframe it that way. Like this isn't just your couch. It's where you go to relax and to refuel. Think of it, it's not just your bed, it's your respite. So think of it this way. Make it special. Make it sacred. Your charging station. But I also want to widen the aperture a bit and consider other ways that we can recharge. Other charging stations in your life. They can be completely still and quiet, for sure. We just talked about that. They also can be more dynamic and vibrant and active. So I'm thinking now about things like getting outside, going for a walk, practicing yoga, meditating, breathing exercises, hiking, running, knitting, reading, doing puzzles, gardening, cooking, being with certain people who fill your bucket, playing an instrument, right? There's thousands of other ideas like this. Actions you can take, things you can do, things you can engage in, ways that you move about the world that you love and that fill you up. These are different kinds of charging stations. You with me? Like, okay, think of it this way. I want you to consider how you move through your hours, your days, your weeks. And sometimes, I know you've noticed, you need to continuously draw on an inner well of patience, of kindness, of curiosity. Like another word for all of this is resilience. And these things don't come out of nowhere, right? You have to pull from deep inside to show up and be patient with your kids. You have to take a breath and draw on that vault of kindness to be who you want to be with your partner, with your coworkers, with the people who are driving on the interstate next to you. You aren't just like naturally and always kind and patient. Nope. You have to cultivate this well of goodness inside of you. And as you move through the day, as you respond to whatever's coming at you, you pull from those reserves, right? This is how we create resilience. We build it up. We practice it. We hone it. And then we have enough strength and enough kindness to pull from when things get tough. And if all goes well, we can kind of, sort of, maybe at least try to show up how we want to show up, right? So another family of charging stations is anything and everything that fills up that well, that deepens that well and fills it with goodness. See? So charging stations aren't just about rest. It's also about deepening that well, filling that well, so that when life gets hard, because it will, it does, it always does, then you're more ready. You have something to pull from. You can take better care of yourself because you're not throwing a bucket down an empty well, hoping to draw patience or kindness or compassion out of the void. Charging stations are anything that fill you up. So for me, this is definitely yoga, definitely reading, meditating, music, right? It's spending time with my people. It's getting outside. It's a lot of walking. It takes a lot of walking. Some of these are really active things, right? Some of them actually can be downright physically exhausting, but it's not a matter of rest with all of this. It's a matter of recovering and refueling and restoring myself. It's about recharging. Like, where do I become the most me? It's about recovering and refueling and recharging me, the meanness of me. What are my non-negotiables in a regular, pretty much daily sense? So look for those things. Look for what you borderline need regularly. Those are your charging stations. So questions like, what do you love? What do you lose track of time doing? What do you think about and return to and never really get tired of? Like, you're onto something with these kinds of clues, right? This is helpful. It'll point you toward potential charging stations. Now, let's consider one other kind of charging station, and then we're going to take it all together and consider the whole. And this is, what can you maybe not do every day or even regularly whatsoever, but you love to do sometimes? So here I'm thinking about things like, where do you like to travel? What long distance friends do you enjoy visiting and hosting? What do you enjoy doing around the holidays? Or maybe it's in the middle of the summer. Maybe it's for your birthday. Something seasonal, something annual. Something that comes along sometimes, but it does truly charge you up. It refuels you. It makes you come alive in a new way. So again, for me, this is getting to the mountains in Colorado and hiking. I can't do this very often, maybe once a year, sometimes twice a year if I'm lucky. This is going back to Chicago. It's visiting my home away from home because I used to live there right after college. And it's about being with my best friend and her family who live in Chicago. This is going to concerts, right? Going to see the symphony, seeing live music, seeing fireworks, getting out in nature, especially nature that's different than what I can access every day, like from the Kansas City area. So things like mountains, beaches, different kinds of trees and plants. This stuff doesn't need to happen every day, right? I have other ways to recharge on a daily basis, right? A more regular and consistent charging station. But these are things that if I never did them again, it would take a toll. Like, it would considerably decrease my quality of life, my ability to recharge and refuel and restore myself to my full me-ness, right? Okay, so to recap here, there's a few different ways to think about your charging stations. One is those quiet, still practices and places. Things you likely or maybe, do in solitude. Restful and relaxing ways to recharge yourself. That's one. Another is that daily, more active, more dynamic charging station. Things like movement, activities, exercise, interaction, things that are based more on going and doing and being with people, different places, right? How do you refuel in that sense? And then lastly, what do you need and what do you enjoy on occasion? Like vacation or time with people who live far away, or ways to celebrate special or annual holidays, birthdays, things like that. What do those recharging stations look like? So there's lots of different avenues here, and you aren't limited to a charging station or two. In fact, I recommend not that. You can have many. You may have some for certain seasons of your life even, and then it may change for a different phase of your life. Be fluid with this. Get curious about it. What do you need to charge yourself up? What are your charging stations? Now, let's consider what this has to do with anxiety. Only always, right? There are many breeding grounds for anxiety. Anxiety shows up in our lives in a lot of ways for a lot of reasons. But what's relevant here today, what I want to draw your attention to here is we don't have much control over the external world. Bummer, but I know you've noticed, right? We keep trying though, don't we? The truth is we just don't have that much sway over the people in our lives, over what's going to happen in our families or at work, what's going to come up in our neighborhoods and communities and world. It's just true. We have a little say, we have a little contribution, but for the most part, we're kind of along for the ride. And something that makes that ride a hell of a lot easier is when we are well-resourced and well-charged. So remember that well that I was talking about earlier, right? How we can be kinder, more patient, more compassionate, just generally more resilient when we have a deep, full well to draw from when life gets lifey, yeah? That directly affects our experience of anxiety and how we move about the world. When you feel entirely depleted and you keep throwing your bucket down, hoping to pull something up, right? Some strength, some patience, some kindness, and you just keep coming back empty, that takes a toll on you. We start to believe there's something wrong with us because we don't, and we really can't, show up how we want to be showing up in our lives. So not only are we running on empty, we start telling ourselves that there's something wrong with us because we aren't doing it well. We aren't handling it better. We aren't managing our lives how we want to be. And so we suffer. We feel anxious. But when you are charged up, when you visit your charging stations and constantly have full battery power, to mix metaphors here, then you're in a different place resilience-wise. You're much more able to bounce back and go with the flow. You're able to be with life as it unfolds instead of constantly reacting to and trying to defend yourself against life. So you're in flow instead of resistance and avoidance. Does that make sense? So when we think about charging stations and their importance, for me, it's this. I mean, sure, they're usually fun. They're usually kind of fulfilling in some way, for sure, and great. And they bolster you to handle life. They deepen and fill your well. You become more resilient when you're constantly recharging yourself. Just like your phone runs better when and more fluidly, like it runs better and more fluidly when you keep it relatively charged, right? You aren't constantly letting the battery die altogether. Or just like your car does better with gas in it, right? It's much less hassle if you just fill it up when you need to fill it up than it is to run out of gas on the side of the road and have to manage it that way. Same. Charge regularly. It's not a luxury. It's not a nice to have perk in life. It's kind of required. It sure makes things run more smoothly and easily, right? Okay, this is one of those ones I'd really love to hear from you. What are your charging stations? What do you love? What do you enjoy? What do you get fueled by? What do you need? What do you want to double down on? Where do you go to charge up? I love this kind of stuff. I can only think of so many things. I can tell you my experience and what I hear from some of my students that I work with really closely, but I'm telling you, you always share something insightful or new or totally fun with this. So let me hear from you on this one. All right. That's what I have for you this week on charging stations, on finding your charging stations. And I will be back next week for more transforming anxiety. And until then, please take care. Do you have someone to help you with your stress, anxiety, worry, and overwhelm? If not, I would love to be your coach. The Fierce Calm Project is my virtual coaching program where we get to go in on topics like this one, and I can help you apply these lessons to your life so that you're creating your own transformation. We do live coaching calls, guided meditations, on-demand yoga classes. We hold book club where we read books your neighborhood book club won't, and there's lots of bonus content that I've created just for you. When you're ready to take what you're learning on the podcast to a whole other level, then come on over and check out the Fierce Calm Project at kellyhanlonmccormick.com/Fierce Calm Project.